Hey guys, what's up? This is Stock Retail coming back to you in a recorded video. Been a little bit since I've done one of these two. Did a live a few days ago. Thought it was time to do something recorded because today's filing was complicated enough. I wanted to just draw my thoughts together. And then once I'd done that, I just thought, okay, why don't I go ahead and do more my style that I've done for all these years and put together something recorded. So not a live today. Got some topics. Maybe I'll do a live get together soon. But today, unless you've been sleeping under a rock, you saw the filing this morning from Adam and team. So I'm going to go through that. That will be 99+% of the focus of this video is what did we get filed today? What does this mean to the debt? What does this mean to our earnings? And all of that, because, certainly I'll call it the network or the cabal loves to use shock and awe and came at us pretty hard today. Some of that is just normal market mechanics. Some of that is certainly, I've called them sort of a pack of piranhas that likes to circle and bite. So I think they bit today. We saw that in the stock price. And if you have firm conviction like me, then you understand the difference between the stock price and the business results. And so that's not anything earth-shaking to me. And so I just want to understand what happened. Let's go through it. Because a million shills are going to give you their opinions. So worthwhile for me to give everybody my opinion. All right, so obviously top level, AMC paid down some debt, shifts some debt to 2029. If you haven't seen F1, gosh, go see that. That is performing really well. Apple's kind of by far their best opening. And then if you didn't see the box office results already from Monday, that had already just a really good hold. From a normal Sunday to a Monday drop, it actually had a very good hold. Yesterday was a great close to the second quarter, but I'll kind of get into that a little more later. So at the top line, I'll just give you some of the punchlines at the top here, and then we're going to go through the details, and then we'll circle back to the bottom line again. So the headlines, there's some assumptions here in this statement, so I'll explain these assumptions through the video. But effectively, very soon here, we'll basically be at a spot where we have no debt due for years. Nothing due till 2027, and then the rest in 2029. So fantastic. Certainly have the runway to be successful. We have paid down debt as a result of everything that just happened, and we have improved cash flows and earnings. Lot to like there, right? So, all right, what's in the debt? The reason I want to show you this, there's two views I want to show you, and the first is from our balance sheet. The second will be our principal amounts. Because as I talk through the debt, what I'm going to give you is the final impact of where does this make us land. So I just want everybody to be grounded in what even is our debt. Any filing, every quarterly filing and annual filing, you can find two numbers I'm going to highlight for you. So the first here, I've just pulled this straight from our balance sheet. Look up something called consolidated balance sheet, or maybe it's consolidated balance statements. And you can see there's a line there, which is in part of our liabilities, stuff we owe, that says corporate borrowings. I've circled that here on the slide. So you might remember at the end of the last quarter, I celebrated that we were below 4 billion for the first time since pre-COVID. And in fact, actually, we're below even kind of our 2019 debt right now. And that was this 3.975 billion. And the reason I want to highlight two numbers for you is then you will, in any filing, if you scroll much farther down, you're going to find a listing of our actual debt. Here it is. This is our debt. Now, there's some key differences. And then remember, this is our debt before this morning's filing. So by the end of this video, I'm also going to walk you through, okay, but where are we now? And so there's just kind of two numbers I want to ground you in. And I just thought, really sharp followers might end up noticing a difference in the numbers. And that's why I want to just highlight. You can see at the bottom here that the principal amount of our debt is 4.128 billion. Well, that's not the same as this 3.975. And so you might say, okay, how come? I don't get that. And that's why sometimes too, I'll report different numbers because it depends on what part of this income and expense and just the earnings statement that you're looking at. Well, this amount is the actual principal on the debt. But have you ever noticed sometimes when we pay off debt, sometimes we get to pay that off at a discount. That can do with negotiations. It can also do with terms in the debt. There's a lot of things, kind of deep under the surface. And so this is the principal amount due on our debt, which shorts would probably come here because it's a bigger number. This is the number that includes various discounts and things because like a bond could be at a discount There's even perhaps currency exchange in here. Some of our debt, it's right here. Some of our debt is Odeon debt, which is in the British pound or sterling. I don't know which is the most appropriate term to use. You English apes can help me. But I'll just say it's in the British pound. And so then there's foreign exchange that happens when you report this number. So there's some discount stuff there. There's some foreign exchange. They're basically the same number. I don't want anyone to get spun up on that, but I just wanted to highlight that. I'm going to show you the math on both, okay? So that ultimately you can just see what's the change in our debt. What's our from to? And then this matters too, because you'll notice you can get the amounts and the rates and the years that everything is due. So you can have an idea of when AMC has debt payments due, how much percent interest we're paying. So what is that quarterly payment? Last quarter we had $109 million in interest payments. And so that comes from all of this. And so then when we pay off debt, I can even do the math on how much are we saving because I have our interest rate and I have our total amount, right? So that's all going to come into play. So that's all I wanted to say about that. So let's get to the filing. There was obviously this new filing today. There's 3 major buckets, just kind of highlighting those for you. Go to AMC, had a press release. Adam recommended reading the press release, reading the 8K. That's where I'm taking this stuff from. I always say, no trust me bros on my channel. So you can go fact check with these things and check that out. Note that there is, so I'm going to go line by line here. The first one, providing new money financing to the company, to AMC, of approximately $223.3 million before fees and expenses, blah, 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 to be used towards refinancing debt maturing in 2026. So we brought in cash, we're going to pay off debt. Now, what you would see, so notice there's this line that we had the $42 million due. There's another line here of the $131 million. So that's going to come into play later. I'm going to basically say, all right, we're paying off those 2026 lines. And then I have a spreadsheet I keep. I don't think I've ever shown you guys this one, not even on the lives or anything, where I have what our payments are for by line so that I can kind of guess each time we pay off. I know how much money we're going to save, and I'm going to show you that. So, all right, so we're paying off 2026 debt, but we brought in new cash to do that. So you should hear 2 sides to the equation. Think of a set of scales that on one side has cash we brought in, but on the other side, of course, that cash we brought in, that's debt, right? So we're given cash, we're going to use the cash to pay down debt, but we also took on new debt for it. So we're going to talk through that. Effectively, we've basically moved 2026 debt out to 2029, okay? And so we brought in the cash to pay that off right away. Then you'll see the second line, the immediate equitization. Remember how we've been talking about debt to equities flips, guys, or swaps, how we were going to have, think back to the whole 566 conversation and the $400+ million that we're going to flip from debt to shares. This is kind of part of that. So immediate equitization, or a flip from debt to equity, from debt to stocks, of 143 million of outstanding debt, with a potential for another 194 million to come. Now, if you do the math on that, you'll see, I want to say that was like 337 million. Don't quote me on that. I got to go look again and kind of figure out what, yeah, that's the 337 million. That is less than the 400+ million we used to talk about, right? So I believe, now I'm sharing a little bit of speculation and opinion. I believe through a sequence of events here, the 400+ million we were going to flip to equity has become basically 337. But of that, what's kind of cool is 143 has flipped right now. What you should be hearing in line 2 is that's also debt paydown. We have reduced our debt by 143 million. Now that was flipped to shares, right? So Shorty's going to come and talk dilution and all of that. And you all know what I say, value creation. So we have to look at, well, all right, but how much money are we now adding into our quarterly earnings because we've reduced our debt payments? And how much more confidence have we given the marketplace because we have less debt and our debt isn't due till 2029 and all of that. So that will come out through the rest of this video as well. All right, so the third line then, you see resolution and settlement of outstanding litigation, blah, blah, blah. What you should just hear is there's no more lawsuit. There is even part of the filing in one of these documents that said as the debt holders kind of go to approve this negotiation, which is a step that you're going to see, as they go to approve all of this, they are basically withdrawing the lawsuit with prejudice. With prejudice means this lawsuit can never be brought again, not even by new parties or anything like that. It's done. It's over. It's sort of like when Ape finally was done and we never had to talk about it again because we won the lawsuit, that kind of thing. So these guys have settled, and the agreement is to settle with prejudice. They can never reopen any lawsuit on all of this. There's a few other things just want you to note. So we talked about bringing in the 223 million of cash. There is 590 million. Basically, okay. Let me even back up and pull up a little bit here. It's odd timing, and I guess I've just got a typo here. But anyway, it's odd timing that I just talked in the live about how I felt the lawsuit was a nothing burger, that these guys were getting in the room to settle, and then here we are settled. So I don't know, maybe better to be lucky than good. I had no idea we were going to settle this quickly. So good to know, good to see. I'm happy for that. It should let everyone breathe a bit of a sigh of relief, because the fearmongers who've been trying to hold fear over your shoulders for months now have nothing to talk about because the lawsuit disappears completely. It's completely gone. So everybody who tried to tell you to be afraid of that, I just want you to take note of people who spread fear, because it's the same people every time who keep doing it to you. And at some point, I hope that some of you say, I'm not sure they're with me if all they're ever doing is spreading fear. What is FUD called? Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Okay, so that's one that it should be kind of a, I don't know, an addition of peace that there's no lawsuit now. But in the process to get to the settlement, I am sure that Adam and the AMC team had to make some concessions. And so one thing you see here, remember I talked in the live, for those of you who've listened, and it's recorded. You can go back and listen to that if I'm sparking your curiosity. I talked in the live about how some of the first lien holders didn't love the fact that they didn't have access. Let's say there was ever a bankruptcy, and there's not going to be, let me make that super clear. We're cash flow positive, we're making our payments. But if there ever was to be a bankruptcy, they didn't have access anymore to sort of claw back certain properties and certain ownership of parts of AMC, let's say. And so in order to shut down the lawsuit, I think there's had to be a restructuring of parts of the debt. In fact, here, let me just go back and show you something. Okay, so if you look at where the 7.5% first lien notes due 2029. See this line? It's 950 million. Of that 950, see how there's this 590 that I'm just using language that says exchanged one debt for another. So from our side, guys, it doesn't feel like much. Basically, I'm going to guess we even have probably the same percent interest rate. We're going to find out soon enough, especially when the next quarterly filing comes. We can dig through all of this. But effectively, just note here, there's an exchange dollar for dollar basis, a total of 825.1 million. And so of that, there's the 590 that is shifting just from one loan to another, all still within 2029. It was 2029 debt. It's moving to 2029 debt. I just have a feeling, because if you look deeper in the rest of the filing, it's talking about the LLC that I explained in the live again. And so I just have a feeling this 590 piece is kind of changing what is exposed to the debt, changing what collateralizes it, what's at risk against this debt. But for us, I mean, that's way in the weeds. So if I just pull up, basically it's Adam and team appeasing, I think, some of our debtors and saying, okay, we'll move this piece over. It's debt with new language against it. You can even go find, there's all kinds of, all these statements, whereas this and whereas that and whereas this, and then here's what's exposed and all that. I kind of looked through some of that. It gets very detailed. It's the legalese and the accountant stuff. But just moving from the left hand to the right hand, in my opinion. 2029 debt, still 2029 debt, shifts a little. But you'll notice this doesn't add up to 825. So we got the 223 million cash. That's going to show up in 2029 debt. We moved 590 from that left hand to right hand, and then it adds to 825. So there's about $11.8 million more, which I think is just effectively further fees and costs, and perhaps even just having to throw a bone to these guys to just let the lawsuit go away. And that happens. Okay, bringing you guys back in. I clipped part of the video, had a couple slides that I had built while I was, kind of on the fly, and realized they were a little bit redundant. I've already kind of covered the topic, so hopefully I've got a little bit of video editing skill at this point. Though frankly, guys, I could use help. And hopefully I've clipped you in well. If there's any glitches on that clip, now you understand. All I was doing was just deleting 2 slides that were basically telling you things I've already told you in this video. So there's kind of a shift of the exchangeable notes, and there's a lot of sort of dollar for dollar shifting going on. If you want more details, go read the filing. It's all in there. I mentioned that the lawsuit is being dropped, so just here's a screenshot of some of that. So this is a little bit redundant again, but this is just showing you, so that we don't have kind of trust me bro, that the lawsuit is being dropped as part of this. Let's talk about shareholder vote a little bit, because you're going to see in the filing this section on other events. And I even had to pull back a posting of mine on X, because first you'll see on here, there's really nothing in here about having to vote on any of this debt restructuring. That there is, and so I'm saying don't confuse the shareholder vote with debtor's consent. There's a piece now that goes out to the various debt holders to ensure that, this is not final until enough of them, basically approve the settlement. So I think it was even just 50.1% or so. Just have to have over 50% of the debtors say, yep, we approve. And so that if you go back to the press release and to the filing, Adam and team released already the amount of people, percent by sort of tranche or bucket of debt that were involved in this negotiation. So they've kind of set themselves up that this is going to be approved. But technically there is a debtor's consent, or almost like a debtor's vote, the debt holders vote. So that's its own vote. There is a shareholder vote. You can see here that we'll have that in December. Adam and team have said we're not going to have any shareholder vote until December. I kind of like that, because there's something you should hear in the middle of that, which is, remember that we don't really have shares for further dilution right now. Everything we've talked about, this debt to equity swap, one thing that I would want my followers to remember is this flipping debt to equity was already in the filings a year ago. It was last July when this was already published. It's been known, it's been, in my opinion, priced in forever. So now when the market acts like there's new dilution, I think is a little ridiculous. And so you can kind of understand how I would feel about that perhaps we are even dipping into deeper value. And so I don't mind that. I mean, I do mind it in terms of, I take it a little personal that we are constantly attacked, but eventually we're going to win. And if it means there's, shares at a discount, then so be it for a while. Okay, so this wasn't necessarily new dilution on the debt to equity swap. Now it's changed the amount of debt that we're paying down, right? So that was, something I drew out. But now we don't have any shareholder vote until at least December. So all the people who want to FUD you with various things about reverse splits and dilutions and, oh my gosh, the sky is falling type of fear, tell them, first off, we're not even if something like that was to get proposed, we're not voting on it till December. So at the very least, you're going to be waiting a while because any vote in December is for, January and forward. In the meantime, we're going to report our Q2 earnings that I believe are positive, as you know. And we'll have Q3 getting reported in November. And we've got a lot in our favor going on. So I think people are just trying to get you focused on all kinds of what ifs and fear and whatever. And I'm just not even going there. But in terms of this vote, I just wanted to separate out. We're not voting all about this whole proposal. However, there is a very specific piece if you go into one of the supplemental filings. So it's like you go to the first filing, the 8K, and then that links to some other filings, and you got to go there. And then in that filing, I did see perhaps some discussion on before the 2030, kind of some of this new exchangeable debt can be flipped to equity, that there may need to be a shareholder vote. So it's a very specific tranche of debt. It's the 194 million, to my understanding, that perhaps we would have to say, yeah, okay, we approve of that. That's the piece. Overall, we're not voting on this thing. Adam and team have kind of the authority to have negotiated our debt. That's just normal. The board and the executives have that authority. Okay, so just clarifying that. Let's get to the math. Let's just finally deal with the math. What is the bottom line out of all of this? So let's just go through piece by piece, and this will kind of maybe make it clear, because you can even hear as we went through the video, I've got all these slides and you're probably like, retail, I'm trying to keep track with you, but it's a lot of information. So I just wanted to put it on one page of what I think I see. And I'm going to try to highlight where I've made some assumptions here too. So I should have gotten rid of this beginning balance line, but we've got it down here. We'll cover that. We'll talk about that in a second. But just remember, I'm going to cover what's on the balance sheet and what is our principal balance. Those are those first two numbers I showed you at the beginning of the video, okay? All right, so what got converted to equity? Remember, right now, we had the $143 million of debt to equity swap. So that is paying down our debt by 143. We go down by 143 million of debt. There's the 590 million I talked to you about that just exchanged dollar for dollar. So that's just a trade of kind of from one bucket of debt to another. And I think it's even just 2029 to 2029. I think that just has to do with some of these guys objecting to what was collateralizing their loans. Very detailed. I'm not going to worry about it, and zero impact to our debt. It's just trading 590 for 590. And we'll see in the next filing a little more on what the terms of that are. All right, so then we got new cash, right? So remember that we brought in this cash we're going to use to pay down our 2026 debt. But nobody's handing us cash for free. I think that's obvious. That's why I'm laughing. And so that does introduce then new debt. Remember the whole 825 number. And then I'm going to assume we go ahead and pay off the 2026 debt. And by the way, we have a little bit of 2025 debt. And so I will assume we pay that off as well. So that's 216 million I'm counting. So yes, we brought on new debt of 223, but we're paying down debt of 216. So you just have to do all these pluses and minuses to figure out what's our total from to. And then there's just another amount that I think is just probably fees. And again, perhaps we had to make some concessions to some of these guys to just settle and be done and not have a lawsuit. And I can appreciate that. I mean, the cost of a lawsuit alone probably would have been up there. So I approve of these guys getting that done, getting it behind us. And remember, all of this spurs from, we used to have a large chunk of debt due much sooner. We've refinanced it to 2029. Survive, then thrive. Adam has been, you guys know I don't even usually talk like this, but I'm going to just say it. He's been busting his ass to make sure that we survive. And I am proud of him. Okay? I stand with him. I'm grateful for him. I see his management. You will not find me going negative because the guy has made AMC survive all of 2020 before the apes were even here, all of 2021 when we were still a deeply depressed box office, all of the strike, and he's getting us to the finish line. He's going to get us there. I believe in him and I'm riding with him. So, I don't know. I guess I got on my soapbox. Stepping back down off soapbox now. The net debt paydown, the bottom line of all of these pluses and minuses, we reduce our debt by almost $124 million. 123.8. Now remember, I've made a key assumption here. And Adam could come out and say, okay, retail had that not quite right. We will find out in the next filing. So I have said, yeah, we brought in that 223 in cash, but we paid off all of 2025 and all of 2026 with it. So they did not specifically say that. There's a little bit of loose language in there that basically we brought in the cash for 2026 debt, and they definitely did not say anything about 2025. So I just want to be upfront with you. I'm making these assumptions, but guys, obviously 2025 debt is coming due anyway. We're going to pay that. And then remember, we've got positive cash flows all of the last 9 months of the year in total for the last 9 months, positive cash flows. And so there's an idea of something called fungibility, or something is fungible. Whether we pay with this cash or whether we pay with the cash that's coming in from the business, it's not going to matter. At some point, we're paying off that 2025 debt. So I felt comfortable putting it on the slide for you. So let's just say it comes from this cash. Then the net effect of everything that just got filed today is we reduced our debt by almost $124 million. And even after that, added another 7.1 million in cash, besides all the cash we're bringing in from the business, right? So positive things there. And then here's that bottom line, going back to some of the first slides. If our last filing, on the balance sheet, we had this 3.975 billion. We are now down to 3.851. So nice to see reduction of our debt. Or if you want to use the principal amounts, we go from this 4.128 to this 4.004. Okay, so some of these numbers are going to be a little bit off directionally. Of course, it's going to be right. We will wait. It's just August. It's not that far away. We're going to get the next quarterly filing. And unless Adam or Sean gives us details between now and then that make it more clear to us, I am fine just waiting until August. And then we'll see, if you think back about one of those early slides where we'll have our balance sheet. It's going to give an updated number. These two numbers, in effect, will both be in the filing. We'll find out how close I was. But bottom line, reducing debt, that's a great thing. All right, so what's the impact to earnings then? Well, we're going to increase our earnings because I looked line by line. So if you take the 2025 debt, the 2026 debt, and the 143 million of 2029 debt, and again, I have that slide where I have the interest rates on all of those, so I know what the payments are. Then we have reduced our debt payments by $30 million a year. Now that's not net. I'm going to have to talk to you about how some of that kind of goes back away. But on the debt pay downs by themselves, we reduced our debt payments by $30 million a year. But then look what I'm calling erosion. Because remember, so there was all the reductions, but then there was an increase in debt on two of these lines, right? So we kind of give some of that back. Well, but notice that the erosion is less than the total. So just bottom line, we improved our earnings by about $12.5 million a year. And again, guys, please, nobody hold me to this number being the exact right number. We'll need to wait for the filing from Adam and Sean to look at what our overall debt is now. But just by my math, we have improved our earnings by $12.5 million a year, or a little over $3 million a quarter. So in Q3, if I could say, all of this is taken care of, and we bank or we pocket the full savings in Q3, then I can take my quarterly forecast for Q3 and I can make it basically reduce our borrowing costs, reduce one of our expenses by $3 million. And when you reduce an expense, that goes straight to the bottom line. And so we have improved our earnings by that. And that gets me more and more confident that Q3 is also going to be positive earnings. I know I've said for a while that all three quarters I think are positive earnings. Q3 is the riskiest one. We get September that sometimes is a little slow because kids go back to school. Although great to see, I know I'm tangenting here, at the box office, there are some things coming in to fill in September, and I love it. Like even a Spider-Man re-release, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man has a very limited re-release, but it's not nothing. Anyway, so improving by reducing our expenses further improves our fundamentals, which is what these guys have been doing nonstop. Hey, quick shameless plug. I'm just going to be open and ask. I'm going to try to breeze by this because it makes me really uncomfortable. Look, I posted on X that I am very busy today, but I was going to take time to do this. When I am done with this video, I now have to go write an entire article for work. You guys know that I'm an industry analyst now. I have 20 plus years of supply chain experience. So I got to go write this article for work. It's going to make me work late. I'm tired. Just think of like a dude playing guitar on the corner. If any of you wants to just be kind and like just drop a tip, this is not some big shilling. This is not like a, what are those, GoFundMe. This is just, hey, if you're walking by the guy with the guitar case open and you want to drop a tip, go check me out at Buy Me a Coffee. That's all I'm going to say about that. So that I don't know, I'm already uncomfortable asking, but just really appreciate any support. I'm tired, I'm busy, and I knew this was important, so I wanted to do this for us today. And I would do this for free regardless, so nobody needs to feel any guilt. If it kind of bugs you, you don't like that, don't do it. I guess I've just said enough about that. So, all right, let's look up, and I'm intentionally kind of using some of the language from Superman here too, but look up. We've got improved quarterly earnings of over $3 million a quarter. I believe that rate cuts are coming sometime. I don't know when. There's talk of September, there's talk of October, and there's talk of a lot of them next year. Certainly Trump is being very vocal about that. We will see in terms of if it's an arm wrestling match where that lands and what the Fed thinks. But even Powell came out and said the majority of the Fed board basically is starting to feel we should do cuts. So we will see. But remember that when there are cuts in the interest rate, that is also saving AMC and improving our earnings. I have talked in the lives and maybe in a couple of recorded videos, and you've seen if you follow me on X, I've been posting about the euro against the dollar. Foreign exchange is probably becoming a tailwind for AMC. You're going to see our European business show some growth, which is basically just due to foreign exchange. So Here we have paid down debt, which improves our earnings. We have rate cuts coming, which improve our earnings. We have foreign exchange in our favor, which improves our earnings. We have the box office is greatly improved. I did check today. Q2 closed really well. Monday was even stronger than I think I had hoped. We landed basically right at my final forecast. So yes, Q2, I'm believing pretty strongly that we have positive earnings. I think I'm stealing from my next slide, so I should have waited on that. But box office improved, improves our earnings. Popcorn and candy have clearly grown. In particular, popcorn, we are in many thousands of points of distribution. Adam has confirmed that is what you could call accretive. It's positive earnings on the popcorn line. You know how rapidly our merch has been growing. They talk about that every earnings. We have significantly expanded our merch sales, which is a very profitable business. All of our debt is basically now, if you take my assumption as correct, that we've paid off 25 and 26, all of our debt is now, there is about 500 million in 2027, and all the rest is in 2029. It is not going to be any kind of issue to pay off that 2027 debt, in my opinion, in light of where the box office is going and in light of AMC's improving fundamentals. So we have a clear runway to fly. Now lawsuits are gone. There's no looming lawsuits. So you're going to get all kinds of spin and FUD as a result of everything that happened today. But this is where we are. Just keep grounding yourself, right? And so here's where I had said I was stealing my own thunder. The Q2 domestic box office finished almost tied for the best in 5 years. I think the Mario quarter, if I've got the right, I think the Mario quarter was just slightly bigger, Q2 of 2023. But that is going to provide me, like my next video, I'll just do a final earnings forecast for Q2, or I'll do it live, I don't know. But anyway, that is going to be just a very easy comp, because I'm going to be able to look at our same quarter 2 years ago and then look at how vastly we have improved our fundamentals in that time, and how much better our earnings will be. That quarter 2 years ago was positive earnings of over $8 million. And I'm telling you, we've improved significantly since then on a similar box office. That is why I believe we have pretty strong positive earnings and positive cash flow this quarter. So fantastic to see. And then let's not lose sight. We got F1 the movie that is just looking awesome right now. We've got Jurassic World Rebirth like coming out basically hours off of this video. That's going to be awesome. I'm very excited. Everything I see, yes, Rotten Tomatoes was kind of sketchy on that one, but the people that I see that are kind of being, I don't know, fair to it, let's say, are saying it's a return to sort of the Spielbergian type of Jurassic movies. And so I'm just super excited about that. Got a great, just vibe off of that one. Fantastic Four is coming. We are just mega into blockbuster season. Superman is just looking like it made, just bust open the doors. And I believe we will win. So let's go.